हस्तियां हैं मेरे साथ और मुझे यहाँ बेंगलोर से सबसे पहले दिल्ली जाना है। दिल्ली से फ्लाइट लेना है देहरादून का। देहरादून से हम लोग हरिद्वार जाएंगे, विसर्जन करना है कल, बट इन्होंने सडनली फ्लाइट कैंसिल कर दिया। हमारे पास प्रायर नोटिफिकेशन कुछ भी नहीं भेजा इन लोगों ने।
My husband passed away and I have come here to transport the coffin, the casket, all the way to Kolkata to be buried in his hometown. We booked an IndiGo flight. This is at 7:10. And till now, we have no information whether the flight is going to take off or not. As per now, each and every flight is being cancelled.
आरपीएफ का एग्जाम था, मैंने 3 तारीख की फ्लाइट कर रखी थी, 3 को कैंसिल कर दिया, फिर 4 को रीशेड्यूल कर दिया, फिर 4 को भी कैंसिल कर दिया, फिर आज सुबह कर दिया, वो भी कैंसिल कर दिया। उसका गवर्नमेंट जॉब का फिजिकल था, मैंने स्पाइस जेट की दोबारा करा के 11 बजे वो भी लेट कर दिया।
A woman carrying her husband's casket back home. A journey no widow should be forced to endure alone. And yet she gets no right to compensation. How long will this chalta hai mindset excuse her suffering? Is there no price for her tears? A daughter you just heard, she missed her own father's asthi visarjan, a moment that she will never get back in her life. But to the system, her loss does not come with a price. Her tears are free. Is this what absence of a right to compensation looks like? A father begging for a sanitary pad for his daughter, and there is no price put to his pain. Is it going to be enough for IndiGo to come and say, here's the money for the ticket, we'll refund your ticket? But there is going to be no price for your pain, for your agony and for your tears. This is the country that we have turned where dignity is denied and a need becomes a casualty of a chalta hai mindset. Tonight, on Blueprint Explosive Exclusive, we are watching it with me, Meghna Deka. We are going to discuss the right to compensation. It is not a luxury. Airlines must be punished for willful neglect, for willful apathy towards people like you and me. Tonight, we are going to ask questions why airlines in India feel that they will get away. Only you will feel the pinch. You will have to shell out 10x times the price, surge pricing. Your pain, because your pain does not come with a price tag. That's what we are going to discuss. Is it time to demand and is it time to fight for our right to get a compensation? Compensation from airlines such as IndiGo. Over the course of a week surrounding the IndiGo cancellation saga, we've seen everything from passengers' anger, their fury, their tears, their helplessness. But to IndiGo, it's arm twisting the government. Not even a scent of remorse. Those words of we are sorry, we are sorry. We are sorry, we don't accept your apology. Stop the apathy and then apologize if you mean it. Is it going to be the same had it been somewhere in US? Had it been somewhere in Europe? Had it been in UK? Would an airline like IndiGo get away with it? Well, no. This is what happens in other countries. We are going to start with Ryanair. Well, this is the one that these are the three different cases we are getting for you. Ryanair. In 2017, there was a big rostering error which led to 20,000 cancellations of their flights within 26 months. What happened? There was a crackdown by the aviation watchdog there. Ryanair was forced to pay up a compensation. What is the compensation that they were forced to pay? They were forced to pay a compensation of 250 to 400 euros per passenger. Plus, they were forced to give meals, they were forced to give hotels, they were forced to pay for rerouting. That's how they were punished. Let's tell you the next example. 2022. This is the Southwest Airlines in United States. There was a storm which disrupted their scheduling software in the year 2022. What happened? There were about 16,700 cancellations of their airplanes in 10 days. They were forced to compensate. How? They had to give refunds. They had to give hotel stays to those passengers. Also, $300 of loyalty point. Make these airlines feel the pinch. Don't just force the passengers to deal with this agony. Add a monetary value to your pain. Add a monetary value to the time that you have wasted, to the time, pain and agony you have faced. Again, in British Airways, that too had to give a massive compensation, not once, twice, in 2017 and again later in 2022. In both the cases, there was an IT failure which had happened in these 2 years, which had led to hundreds of cancellations. What happened? They were forced to pay. British Airways paid compensation between 250 to 600 euros to their passengers. In addition to that, they were forced to pay duty of care support, which essentially means hotels, meals, and other things. It's not just enough that these airlines pay a mere compensation and return the money, your 5,000 rupees, 10,000 rupees, whatever it is, your tickets, but they are being forced everywhere else in the world to actually pay for your pain. Everywhere. Passengers get refunds, they get full duty of care, but India, what do you get instead? It is a cold, calculated arrogance, an arrogance that asks you to swallow the pain. Why? Because airlines believe your suffering has no pain tag. Watch this. Refund and meals only is what is allowed in India's Charter of Passenger Rights. These are the details. What are you as a passenger entitled to in India? All they will give you is refund and meals alone in case of delay. And this second point is the most shocking one. There's no compensation for any airline-related delay. It is more of on humanitarian ground. It is not about what your rights are. If the airline delays your flight, there's no compensation for that. There's also no compensation. The third point, no compensation even for preventable disruption, as it appears to be the case here in IndiGo as well. Why are we calling it a preventable disruption? Well, this is something, not just us, it is even the centre saying this. As Times Now's Group Editor-in-Chief Navika Kumar spoke to Aviation Minister Ram Mohan Naidu, he said that it could have been prevented. Was this cancellation mess preventable? Why did the government take IndiGo on its word? Well, let's tell you the questions that we must ask today. IndiGo had 2 full years to prepare for the new rules. They were not new. It had 2 years to prepare for it, but it did nothing. In January 2024, last year, the airlines, pilots, rest norms were put in place. They were announced. 1st of November 2025, IndiGo still wasn't ready. 11 months later, they had no plan of action. They knew that the deadline was coming. They did nothing. They assured that there is going to be a compliance to the ministry, to the DGCA, but did not hire any more pilots. They allowed booking despite pilot shortage. They knew they wouldn't have flights which are going to be in the sky because they don't have pilots, but they continue to book. People like you and me continue to buy their overpriced tickets. And today they say, all we are going to do is ensure that you'll be repaid the amount that you paid for your ticket. Not one word about your pain, your agony, your discomfort. Navika Kumar, the Group Editor-in-Chief of Times Now and Times Now Navbharat, has asked these pointed questions about the airline price surge and compensation to the Civil Aviation Minister, Ram Mohan Naidu himself. Listen in to what the minister says, signaling that the centre is indeed looking at your right to compensation as a passenger.
Mr. Ram Mohan Naidu, I want to ask you, and I In my early days as a reporter, I have met your father, Mr. Yeram Naidu, a very honorable member of parliament. In the 90s, we used to see him. And today, I ask you in all honesty, what will you say to those people who went through so much of hardship? I want to ask you, what will you say to those people who had to pay for a Delhi-Bangalore flight 92,000 because there was surge pricing and the regulator was literally sleeping on the wheel? At least 2 or 3 days the surge pricing happened. 92,000 to Delhi to Bangalore flights, Delhi to Patna was 57,000. What will you say to those people?
So regarding this incident, whoever has faced these hardships, I also want to say that we regret the inconvenience that has happened. We sympathize with them. This is an incident which shouldn't have happened.
Will you compensate them?
I'm not shying away from the responsibility
Will
that
you
as ministry
compensate
we
them?
need to take action. And definitely we are going to look into some kind of initiative.
Sir, 92,000.
Some kind of initiative which will look into this thing. There are two things. One, people who have directly faced the hardship. We have to keep them also in mind while we are trying to do something to them. And the second, who would have hurt by the fares, that small gap. Because in the ministry, we have seen that if in this kind of situation, there would come a point where the fares also would rise up. And that is when we immediately release the order. But there was a short gap between the releasing of the order and this thing.
2 days, you may call it short. Common man doesn't call it short.
So in that time which was there, and definitely we are going to analyze into what has happened. And retrospectively, we are going to definitely do something.
Kitna analyze, sir? Analysis paralysis in the policy making, sir.
Let me tell you something. We want to be definite. I just don't want to say it in words. We want to do it in action.
So I want to just ask you,
numbers.
I just want to ask you rapid fire. Compensation for passengers for the hardships, yes or no?
Yes, in some kind of way, yes.
Some kind of way?
So, what exactly is that I'm not able to tell right now, but we are thinking about
for surge pricing, for those who have paid 90,000 tickets, will there be compensation or refunds?
We will take that into account.
We will take that into account. Yes, there is going to be some kind of compensation. The government has now stepped in saying, yes, you have the right to compensate. Isn't it time to end the aviation monopoly? Is monopoly the reason why airlines such as IndiGo feels that they can get away with it? Well, when the sky belongs to a select few, your grief, your words have ruined their moments. They become collateral damage. Look at India, for example. 90% of India's aviation pie is split between only 2 airlines, IndiGo and Air India. You have it on your screens. But compare it to some of the other nations, the market shares that they have. In China, for example, it is 60%, top 3 airlines. That is bad, but not as bad as what's happening in India. Also in US, there is 75%, top 4 airlines, but at least you have top 4 airlines to choose for in the 75% pie that we are getting for you. But viewers, let's also try and understand what really the Herfindahl-Hirschman index really is all about, because this index will tell you globally where we stand in market concentration in the aviation sector worldwide. It's called the HHI. So what really is this HHI? It is the sum of the squares of each airline's market share, and the closer the share is to 10,000, it is more monopolistic. So 10,000 means it is more monopolistic. As little as the score is towards 0, it suggests that you have rigorous competition, which means it's of course a good thing for the passengers. 0 is good, 10,000 is bad. Where does India stand? Where do the other nations stand? India stands at a whopping 4,936 on this HHI. Means it is highly monopolistic. You compare that with other nations like US, it's only 1,600 HHI, which is there is less monopoly. Look at other countries like Germany. Germany stands at around 2,000 plus HHI, means there is little monopoly there in the German skies. In Belgium, it comes to about 2,150, which is also low monopoly, definitely compared to India. And other countries like China, as I was telling you earlier, it is a case of partial monopoly, not as bad as India, but partial monopoly, you can call it, with 2,500 HHI. In Brazil, it is 3,400 HHI, which is also a partial monopoly. But an intense amount of monopoly, of course, is seen in India. With these numbers, let's go forward to our panelists and ask what must be done, what should be done, and why you and I should fight for a price tag to be put to our pain and our tears. Not enough to just refund the tickets. Joining us today on the show, we have Advocate Parvez Memon, a senior partner at MZM Legal LLP. Also, Saroj Damania is joining us, an aviation lawyer. I'm going to start first with Advocate Parvez Memon. If you can explain to us what is this right to compensation? We have seen it in other nations like US, Europe, UK. We don't have one in India. The Charter of Right seems to be very thin and flimsy compared to others. Is that the reason today we've seen a chaos like IndiGo?
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you completely on this point. Like, if we look at the IndiGo fiasco, one thing is clear, that the burden of chaos cannot be shifted to the passenger. When an airline cancels flights or leaves hundreds stranded, it is not a mere inconvenience. It is a breach of trust in my eye.
Yes.
People miss weddings, there are medical appointments, there are business meetings. I myself have missed conferences in Delhi where I had bad losses to the tunes of lakhs of rupees. I had a conference of 2 days in the International Bar Association Forum on 5th and 6th of December, which I could not attend. I had a hotel booking, I had car booking, I had people to meet, I have meetings lined up. Forget my personal inconvenience. I'm talking about people here. Families are left stranded at the airports.
Absolutely.
The law already recognizes that a consumer deserves what they pay for. And when a service collapses, the compensation must be meaningful and not symbolic, in my view. You know, airlines cannot hide behind their blueprint, fine print, whatever they call. Operational realities cannot become an excuse for human hardship. The aviation ecosystem must remember that behind every ticket is a person, not a PNR number. That's what they should bear in mind. It is time we move towards a more accountable framework where passengers are automatically compensated for cancellations and delays, not after filing long battles in consumer courts or filling forms and claims and waiting indefinitely. The airlines must bear it immediately. With immediate effect for such cancellations. The losses is humongous. We have seen the instances that you showed a while ago. A wife crying for her husband's funeral, a couple, doing an online reception. What is all this going on? Who's accountable?
Absolutely.
The DGCA should rise to the occasion, not that we will think, we will discuss, we will analyze. As Navika rightly questioned that minister, paralysis of analysis. It is indeed a paralysis of analysis, and the system has collapsed. It's the monopoly of two particular airlines you named, Air India and IndiGo. We are left no choice. You look at the prices. It's one airline that is failing the passengers.
They own the skies and they know it. And they feel that they are going to get away with it. In fact, Navika Kumar has spoken to the aviation minister. He says that, yes, we are looking at a compensation as well. It's not just enough that here are the 5,000 rupees that you spent on your tickets, but we are not going to pay for your pain and your problems. Saroj Damania, if the government wants, what should be done next? Should we have stricter laws in India like they do in Europe, like they do in US?
We understand internationally the aviation market has a very stringent norms for passenger compensation, and they are penalized by paying monetary compensation, not by saying sorry or just giving an apology.
Absolutely.
In India, they have published a full-page Times of India article saying we are sorry and just want to give refund, and they are very proud of it that we are processing refunds. Aviation Ministry is declaring refunds will be processed within 7 days. That is not what the consumers want. That is not what the passengers want. In same thing happened in US. You would have got $250 immediately in addition to the airline fare. At least here the aviation minister is talking about compensation. I feel bare minimum aviation ministry should direct IndiGo that at least double the amount of fare should be refunded as immediate interim compensation. In addition to that,
at the very least,
should be also directed to reimburse the cost incurred. Of course, on proof of invoices or proof of payment. If a passenger has spent 5,000 rupees extra on another flight, or if he has spent a hotel booking, or if he has spent on food, because IndiGo failed to provide, they should be reimbursed for the expenses made.
Absolutely.
In addition to that, of course, compensation is there, and there is no amount which can determine some of the things what we have just seen on TV about
Yes.
the funeral, weddings. These are once in a lifetime moment. No compensation is big enough. But of course,
Absolutely.
as you have said, the passenger charter is pretty silent on the compensation aspect. But let me tell you, in India, majority of the
Right.
aviation passenger compensations are taken through the consumer court.
This has happened in other countries. Why not in India? That's
In
the
India,
question.
of
Because
course.
you must put a price to your pain so that the aviation industry knows that there are people behind those PNRs, as Parvez Memon rightly said. We are people, we are not just a PNR number. If we cry, we will force you to pay up. It's time that you wake up to your right to compensation. Thank you so much, both of you, Saroj Damania as well as Parvez Memon, for joining us here on the show. Without a short break, don't go anywhere.